Crouch. Bind. Set.
Joe presents The House of Rugby, Season 3.
Hello, welcome to this week's House of Rugby. We've got some cracking guests coming up for you. Shauna Brown and John Bentley. We're looking forward to a lot of talk in this programme. That's before we even managed to get to Alex Good and Shauna Brown. Sean, who is sporting a black eye, a little a rugby trophy for you.
Yeah, a little bit of a knock.
Was it rugby, Sean?
On Friday night. It was. Alex, is that your England jersey that you're wearing there, is it?
No, it's my cricket jersey. I'm sure we'll get onto it. Big cricket game today, mate. Big.
Yeah, always nice to have a little bit of a mark on you after a game. You've done something in the game, whether it be good or bad. But yeah, we got beaten in the last minute of the game against Gloucester up there, so it was a tough one to take. But look, we move on and get ready for a good end to the season, hopefully.
And Alex, before we move on to your cricketing prowess that you'll tell us all about, no doubt, Saracens didn't put in a good performance. They weren't allowed to put in any performance at the weekend. COVID won the weekend, sadly.
Yeah, sadly our game against Hartpury was called off. A few of their players, I believe, had COVID, so couldn't risk the game. So yeah, it's a shame. It would have been our last game before the playoffs, but we move on and we play Ealing over 2 legs on the 13th and 20th of June. So everything to be decided on those 2 games.
Here, will you get me a few front row tickets for that one, will you?
To come and abuse me, lob beers at me, eggs. What are you going to do?
Well, I just want to be there for when the trail finders take you down.
Okay, so you're going as a Trail Finders fan. So yeah, definitely get your tickets, mate. Yeah, ahead of my family. Yeah, I definitely make sure
I'll sit with the family if that's okay with you.
No, he's definitely not going to let that happen.
No. Lee knows best.
Okay, let's talk about the proper sport then, Alex. Cricket. What was this? A Saracens cricket match or something?
Yeah, just after training, we had a cricket game. The 2 cricket keynotes, Elliot Daly and Jamie George, decided they would do like a select 11 each. We're going to do this big thing about a draft system. They just picked 11 players each. It turned out to be 14 players each. So some guys just batted, some guys just bowled. I mean, Mako Vunipola did his best impression going out as Bowser from Mario Kart. He turns up in his helmet, opens the batting, doesn't hit a ball all day, goes out after about 5 balls, and then that was him done for the day. He got in his car and went home. So didn't have to field, didn't have to bowl. Yeah, offered a lot as always. Yeah, no, he just was only down to bat, and he was quite happy with it. But there was a few standouts. I was going to say Alex Day, the scrum half, played well. Harry Sloan was good. Elliot Daly, I've got to say, I was disappointed with. He talks a wonderful game of cricket. I'm sure he was very good. You know, goes on about it. He got 90 odd runs against the MCC and stuff, and how he nearly had his name on the wall. He let us down. He was meant to be our star player, our captain. He dropped 3 catches, one of which was right in the breadbasket from Jamie George. Shelled it. Didn't bat that well. He bowled well, but it was a real letdown. And their star player, one of our conditioners, Simon Webster, a bit of an ex-professional, smashed a load of runs and got a few wickets. So that was the tale of the day.
You see, you could actually tell who'd won just even looking at Instagram, because anyone who was in the winning side, because I said to you, like Jamie George was all over it, they all put it across their social media, not a squeak from you.
No, we actually didn't get a photo because, again, our captain had to let his dog out, I think, so he turned up a bit late. So I ended up having to choose if we were batting or bowling. But no, it was good. It was good. It was a lovely day, obviously, beautiful sunshine, nice for the boys to get out there, and I think all the staff and everyone was watching. So yeah, it was a good day, good fun. Sean, did you play any cricket?
I have
ever?
Actually. Would you believe?
I would love to see that.
Yes, I have.
I would imagine you being pretty bad.
Right. One-on-one
we'll bring you down.
One-on-one cricket match, me and you.
That sounds odd.
That doesn't sound like a cricket match.
Bring your own bat.
I don't know anything.
Oh God, this is going off piece.
Is that not called like tennis? Just 2 people hitting a ball with a bat?
I just imagine Sean having a big lump of wood just trying to hit me. So I can't imagine that great.
Anyway,
Well,
moving
we'd
on.
still film it.
Moving
on. Well, somebody who had a great weekend. Not only did they win a title, they also won the internet. Shauna Brown, what an incredible interview you gave after an incredible match. Has it all started to sink in yet?
No, is a short answer, just because I've not had a chance. Playing the final on Sunday. I've been coaching at Girls Rugby Club Monday and today. So literally go home, go to sleep, wake up again. So no, I'm still trying to catch up on my phone, all the messages, WhatsApps, Instagrams, and the amount of people. Like, there's just been so much love. I'm completely overwhelmed with it, but it's been so positive, and I don't even get this much sort of attention during England games. So it's incredible to see the club game getting to this level. And
you're still very much in the rugby environment, it looks and sounds like.
Yeah, so I'm at a local rugby club, not mine. I'm at Heathfield and Wardroom, just come to watch my friend play a bit of touch because it's her birthday. She had her celebrations on Sunday, but a bit busy on Sunday, so couldn't be there. So I thought I'd come and see her on her actual day instead.
What was on Sunday?
Just a bit of rugby, just a bit of contact rugby. That's nothing to write home about.
Just tell us, Shauna, about the emotions of it all, because, you know, it was the third time of trying. You'd got so close the last couple of times, but for it to be won in the manner of which you guys played, because you did win it. I mean, that was so special for you all.
Yeah, it was like leading up to it, I didn't realise people were calling us the underdogs. It was only afterwards people were like, oh, Saracens didn't actually win. Like, we were rooting for you because you were the underdogs. And I thought, are you joking? Like, we've had a cracking few weeks of training. Like, we've had a good season. We had good games leading up to it. We was ready for it. I think we was ready as we was ever going to be. And our semi-final against Wasps, again, we had a great game of rugby, and we actually played two halves, and that's something we struggled with each season. Each season for a couple of seasons is only been able to put one half of rugby together. But as I say, semi-final against Wasps, we had a good time and showed what we could do. And it was a little bit of worry in my head, thinking, have we just played our best game of rugby a week too early? But then the week leading up to it with training, etc., and we were ready, and apparently we didn't play our best game the week before because we played our best game on Sunday.
And, I was really impressed with your resilience as a group, really. You know, going down to 13 players, defending your line like that was outstanding, and stopping Saracens from scoring. You know, is that something you've spent a lot of time on this year, just really coming together as a team? Is that the difference between last year particularly?
Yeah, and I guess it's remembering that, and just the constant of we are a team, no matter how good our individuals are. We are a team, and it's also preparing for those situations. And as we've been this season, there's been a lot more red cards and with the head contacts and a lot more yellow cards. So it's been about adapting. It's been about preparing. I did offer myself up for hooker for a line-out throw, and I was quickly shut down. I even got the throw in, but it was like, nope, there's a hooker coming on. But yeah, it's proved that we could do it. And even at one point, not only were we down to 13, but we had 2 players in the dead ball area down, injured. So we was actually at 11, and referee was making us kick off. He was like, no, we've literally got 11 players on the pitch. How can we kick off? But it's about the tactics as well, and you know how it goes. Like, you walk a little bit slower everywhere, and you have a bit longer, have a chat under the post, etc. But yeah, it's something we try to prepare for, and it showed because we won in the end.
Let's talk about the fact that this was shown on television. I've done quite a lot of the Women's Six Nations and the autumn matches that you played in against France. But the fact that match and the quality of that match was out there for everyone to be seen, that's really important for the women's game, for women's sport in general.
Yeah, and I think for it being on BT Sport at like a prime time slot, people are watching. Like, it's just people watching rugby, and for it to be domestic rugby, it's making people realise that you don't have to go to an international standard. You don't have to go to an international game. You don't have to be watching a Six Nations game to get that standard of rugby, because it is available domestically within this country. And I would suggest that game on Sunday was better than some Six Nations we've played in terms of having 2 teams, and at no point did you know who was going to win until that final whistle went. And it felt like that even to the last 10 seconds, watching the clock go down. Literally, I was watching the clock go down, and then the backs wanted it. It was 10 seconds left, and the backs wanted it. And I'm like, what? No, trying to
Typical
hold
backs.
Don't give it to him. What are you doing? You might do something wrong. But it's good to be able to show off what kind of rugby we've got, not only as women but within this country.
I think it's brilliant. I was at actually your game, Shauna, the Wasps game. and the standard that day was phenomenal. And I think, your defence and stuff, when you look at how organised you were, you can see what work that you're after putting in throughout the year. And I actually didn't see the game at the weekend, but like I know a good few of the Irish girls on the Wasps team that have moved over here to play and to want to play at this standard and to improve themselves and try and get better. And the game has definitely grown over here so much more than it has obviously at home. But the standard is getting better and better. And like even talking to them, having conversations, like if you keep developing the way you're developing in this league, the English team is going to be phenomenal. But other teams obviously will improve, being in that professional setups, likes of Quins, Saracens, Wasps are getting better. And I think it's a testament to the work that's been done at that level over here. But it's some of the hits at the weekend. I was like, or in that game, in that semi-final, I was like, no thanks, don't want to be there either. It was like so physical. That's what I was really impressed with as well, because it was so physical. But I suppose nowadays your training programs, everything is at an elite level, so you're going to have big collisions. But it was great to watch, and it was actually an exciting game, and you pulled off some cracking moves as well, set piece moves and stuff, and like really impressive stuff. So no, it's brilliant for you, and well done on your achievement this year. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. It's good that, like you say, England are putting the money in, getting the sponsors in, getting the title sponsors in to actually invest in the women's game, because that's what it is at the moment. It is an investment. Like, it's not a money-making operation at the moment. It's about putting the money in now for the payout in sort of 10 plus years time, and ultimately for the growth of the game. Like, it's going to come from women. In Britain, over 50% of the population are women. So if we want to grow the game, like, why not tap into that audience? Because like the infrastructure is there, the rugby clubs are there, the clubhouses, the posts, the pitches, it's all there. You just need to open up to women as well and actively encourage them to come. And like you say, England are becoming an incredible force to be reckoned with, not only as an international squad, but as a league. And people are coming from worldwide to come and play with us. And it's now hopefully putting pressure on other nations to do the same and respect us as women, to give us the investment and time and energy that we need to become better rugby players. And yeah, hopefully England setting a standard is going to put pressure on other nations to start investing in their women as well.
Along with obviously being on TV and being, as I said, prime time on Sunday, so more and more people can view it. Is there more that can be done to engage sort of young girls to get involved in rugby and sort of grow the game even more?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way and the cost-free way is for men to talk about it, because it's okay, me as a woman talking about women's rugby, because of course I'm a woman, I'm going to talk about women's rugby. But when a man starts talking about women's rugby, it's like, oh, hold on, this is not actually an issue that affects him, and yet he's talking about it, he's passionate about it, he's interested in it. Maybe I can have a look as well. So it's things like social media, just talking about your women's teams and talking about what's happening, what games you're watching, what games are coming up, what players to look out for, and the stories behind us as well. Because what would I say, about 80% of our league in terms of players are full-time workers. Like we have jobs. They go to work 9-10 hours a day and come to training straight after. Like, there's vets, there's doctors, there's soldiers, there's teachers, full-time professions, and then coming into what is called a professional rugby environment, but it's not professional because they're not being paid to play in that capacity. So it's just getting to know us as players, as people, and showing off our game.
So Shauna, when you look at a competition which, we know it's been delayed because of everything that's been going on in the last 12 months, the World Cup, England, would be one of those teams because you do have that financial backing. We know about New Zealand, we know about France, but how sort of keen, how desperate are you for it all just to get closer, just to get started? Because it's almost been a false start, hasn't it?
Yeah, so I only just started playing rugby in 2015 and playing for England by 2017. So I've not had a chance at a World Cup yet. And actually the last World Cup was a year early. So it's been a really long gap, and I just want to get going, because also I'm getting old. Like, I'm 31. I think I'll be 32 if I play the next World Cup. So I want to get there to say I've been there and say I've done it, and sort of have another sport under my belt on the international stage. But it's been a long time coming. But the options were play it this year and potentially play in front of nobody, or wait till next year and have not only fans but family and friends, because that's what makes a difference. Like, it's all well and good playing for your country, playing abroad, playing in a World Cup, if you've got no one there to sort of celebrate and appreciate it with, it's like, it's probably it's worth the wait of a year.
And you mentioned that you've been international in two sports, really. You went to the Commonwealth Games in 2014. What was that like, and why the change to rugby?
So it was I've done shot put, discus and hammer since the age of 12. Went to the Commonwealth Games, as you say, in the hammer throw. And it was just something I'd always done, always been passionate about. And then there was never any money in it. I always had a full-time job alongside, like training at an international level, but having a full-time job. And I always said to myself, when I stopped enjoying it, then like that was time to finish, because there was no other gain for it. There was like no financial gain, etc. So kind of fell out of love with it after the games in 2014, and literally sent an email to my local club and said, can I come and have a go? And they said yes, and started at Medway Rugby Club 2015, training once a week, and enjoyed it just because of the contact. Like there was wrestling, there was push-up battles, there was sort of fighting on the ground. I was like, and it was actively celebrated. It's like, yeah, like hit harder or go fast. I'm like, wow. I was just like, where have the
You were like, rugby,
been?
where have you been all my life?
Literally. The coach is like, go harder. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. So yeah, it was literally just sent an email to my local club and said, can I come and have a go? And they said, yep, come down. And yeah, started at Medway in summer of 2015.
Shauna, I do appreciate the fact that you are in a rugby club. You've gone to support your friend and it's her birthday. So I'm going to make this the last question. I'm just interested on your thoughts on a women's British and Irish Lions team going forward. If that's something that you think should happen, you'd love to be part of?
Of course it should happen. Like, why shouldn't it? Of course it should happen. Would love to be part of it. Would be an incredible achievement. If I could be a part of making it happen as well, like if me speaking out often enough is a tool in making it happen, also incredible. And there would, like some people say, it'd be almost entirely English, but when you look at individuals like Chloe Rowley of Scotland, Claire Malloy of Ireland, like there's so many great individuals, Jazz Joyce of Wales, like we could have such an incredible British and Irish Lions women's team as well. And again, I think we would dominate on the world stage against anyone, but it should happen. Of course it should happen. Like for me, it's a non-question.
Shauna, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show tonight, and richly deserved, because what you achieved at the weekend has been a long time coming. So really well done, and thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Well, great to hear from Shauna there, and also the potential of a women's Lions tour going forward. But we're going to take a trip down memory lane. I'm very much looking forward to this one. We think that Shauna Brown talks a lot. It's about to get cancelled out because we have John Bentley on. John, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Lee, I'm great. I'm alive. I woke up this morning. I've had a great day. The sun's out. Yeah, all good. I'm glad to be here. It's nice to be invited.
Oh, not at all. We can't wait to hear your stories. I mean, there's so much focus on the trip to South Africa for the British and Irish Lions coming up. I mean, that must bring some great memories back for you.
It's a little bit crazy, really, Lee. I get famous once every 4 years and really famous once every 12 years. But my wife points out I went on one tour, scored one try, and I've got one speech, so get over yourself. But yeah, it's exciting. It's such a shame about the current situation that the world finds itself in at the moment. I was anticipating travelling out to South Africa to be part of an amazing trip, you know. And of course, reminiscent to my trip, our trip in '97, the Lions are going into the backyard of the Commonwealth Champions, which was set up beautifully the November before when obviously they beat England in the final. But it's always exciting. The Lions is a massive brand. The greatest team in the world, I would probably say, without a doubt, with some huge challenges. The difference between a successful tour and a not so successful tour are those challenges which were set in place probably prior to departing the home nations, really.
You're such a big fan, though, of the Lions, John. It's not just about, the tour that you went on. The fact that you have gone out as a fan and been part of it, I mean, that's how special it is to you.
Do you know something, Lee? It's massive. It's huge. When you look at it initially, and Sean and Alex Goodie will probably discuss with you, the challenge is to bring together 4 countries, 3 of which, the Celts, phonetically spelt quite incorrectly at times, but to try and bring them together and to become a team in such a short space of time is amazing. And of course, my experience in '97 was the happy tour. It really was the happy tour, and it embraced both amateur and professional. And that's it. What is professionalism? What is professionalism about? Being paid money? Probably not. It's about how you conduct yourself both on the field and off the field. And it was very much in its infancy, was rugby union with professionalism in 1997. But certainly, we were just discussing prior to the programme going live that I missed 2001, but caught 2005 and everyone ever since as a supporter. And I cried because you bring the 4 sets of supporters together to support that one team. And it's truly amazing. And if ever a player needed a little bit of a pick-me-up and a bit of a, this is how much it means, just to peek your nose around the corner of the chain and be able to look outside and see what was happening. I mean, these boys will get the opportunity to do that in many years to come, but I just think it's an amazing, amazing experience. Greatest team in the world, Lee, without a doubt.
And on that 97 tour, John, was it even on your radar? Like, going on that tour, being a huge part of it, and ultimately being one of the stars, really, in terms of what happened?
Goodie, I'd only just come back from Rugby League in September of '96. I got a phone call from Fran Cotton in '97, January of. Bentos, how are you doing? It's Fran. And yeah, I know it's Fran. Not seen you for 9 years, but I know it's Fran. And he asked me a question, are you available to tour with the Lions? And I lied, actually, because I said yes. Because contractually, I was obliged to play Rugby League in the summer with Halifax and the World Club Challenge against Canberra and Brisbane and Canterbury. And he said, well, with all due respect, you're playing at Newcastle, you're running riot, as a team, individual. We need to get you run with England. I don't know if it was called England A or England B at the time. He said, leave it with me, I'll ring you back. And he came back to me in 3 weeks and he said, Bentos, the news I'm going to deliver comes as a very little surprise to either. England won't touch you. And I got that because I was 30. Lions is a one-off. It's there and then. And it's, we'll probably discuss this about selection and Warren Gatland's selections. You've got to pick players who are playing well at the time because it's about there and then. England will look into the future. And he said, well, England won't touch you, but we're watching you, so it's up to you. And my game was good. And crazily, there were actually 8 players went from the second division, 3 from Richmond, who were in the second division, and 5 from Newcastle, which I was playing at, all went from the second division. It was crazy, really, but it was amazing how we all came together and became the one.
One of the most outstanding memories was the documentary, I suppose, and you had yourself, Keith Wood. You had a lot of characters on that tour, and you're saying, John, it's like it was a fun tour. Do you think you look at rugby nowadays? Do you see characters? Do you see robots? Or what do you see, in your opinion, at the minute? Like, is the game missing those type of people nowadays?
I think social media has changed a lot, Sean. And by the way, you scored the best Lions try of all time. We'll discuss this a little bit later.
I'll take it.
Yeah, without a doubt.
No doubt.
And it was funny, actually. I don't know if you're aware of this. I didn't learn this till years later, but in 1993, Ian McGeechan took the Lions to New Zealand and took a group of players that he didn't think were good enough. And I'm going to name who was... And actually, he was invited to take 97 and said no. And they asked him why. He said, well, I took players to New Zealand that I didn't want to take. I said, well, the only way I'll consider taking them is I picked the coaching staff and I picked the players. Hence, he got his own way with that. But he was also informed prior to our departure that there was a film crew had paid some money to do the fly-on-the-wall documentary of the Lions tour to South Africa. And McGeechan said, no. This is a Lions tour. This isn't a circus. We're not having a film crew. And actually, he was told by the committee from the line, you got your own way with the selection, the film crew's going along. And that's it, you have to deal with it. And actually, Geach admitted that they just chose to ignore them. But we went, and you'll get this, Sean, out of the 9 weeks that we were away together, we only, as a group of players, and there were 35 of us, 12 members of the man, we only on 2 occasions had a drink together as a whole tour party. The first occasion was the night before our departure to South Africa, and the second occasion was after we'd we played the third test, we'd lost that, but it was on the Sunday, we had a bit of a mad Sunday. And I ended up with the film crew and said, what are you boys seeking? Nobody's introduced you. They've never said why you're here. And they said, "Oh, we want fly on the wall." I said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! You'll never get fly on the wall. The rugby tour. These boys are leaving their wives and girlfriends, or both, for the lucky ones, behind at home for 2 months. The only person who can get you a fly on the wall is a player." And actually, I never said another word. And we arrived in Durban, and I had a knock on the door, and they came with a carrier bag, and the lad who was running the crew said, "Bentos, here you go. There's a camera here, and I want you to use it. It's yours. Do what you want." And none of the players knew. And then I gave it to Doddy and to Keith Wood. But it was a tour that we could have all been on, that, wasn't it? Goodie, sure. That was a tour that we were all on. It was a tour that any amateur club was on and whatever. But the world's changed a little bit as well, boys. So with the social media and things, so we just have to be a little bit careful as well.
But nowadays, when you see Netflix and the amount of money and things that they put behind all these massive sporting documentaries, that was the original. In my eyes, that was the one that sort of paved the way for everything that we're watching now, which takes multi-million pounds and everything else. And there was you boys all running around with your cameras. And that's what made it so real.
But do you know why? Lee? It was real. It was real. You got everything. You got people crying. You got people celebrating. You got people who have been dropped. You got honesty from people. And McGee can. I mean, the famous one that I'm sure you'll love. Me and Goodie, we're softbacks. But Sean will get this. That Jim Telfer speech when we played against the Springboks in the build-up to the second test, into the first test, when he basically told the forwards they were second best. In many departments, they were second best. I watched that speech on the video. It was a video, by the way. It wasn't a DVD. It was a video back in 1997. I'd never seen that. I'd never heard it. And actually allowed us access to some of the things that happened on the tour. And you thought, wow, I didn't know that really happened. And it was so real. And do you know the one thing I'll always, and I'm mindful, I seem to be occupying a lot of airtime here, and I do apologise, but you're directing a lot of stuff to me, guys, at the moment. But I'll just close it off by saying, probably the greatest day of my life was the 28th of June in 1997. And we were at Kings Park in Durban, and 3 hours prior to kick-off, Surrey and McGee, or Geach, stood in front of us and addressed us. And I would just sit at the front. And he didn't speak. He spoke a little bit about the rugby, but he spoke about challenges in life, and he spoke about days and the fact that we come together, and he spoke about the experience on the field, that there would be moments during that game where you were people who you were sat alongside at that moment, you'd be stood alongside and you wouldn't be able to speak to them. And actually it was all about being special, and ultimately it went back to the fact that in 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, it's nearly 25 years time, you just see somebody across the street and it's just a look. And you boys, I'm sure with your careers, with playing alongside the lads that you play and the experience you've had, have got the same experience there, where it's just a look that says, you're special and you've been a big part of my life.
But I think you're probably underselling it a bit. As a 9-year-old, it was just, I was captivated by it. Just couldn't get enough of this video. And, I remember your world-class try against the Lions. It was swerving past everyone. And I also remember, the honesty and the raw nature of your interview when the selection came through on that first test, and and to put yourself out there on TV like that was incredible. And friends still talk about the Everest speech. Guys at the training ground today were quoting Jim Telfer in terms of his Galega man, it's just the best bit of footage you'll ever see. And you were the big part of that. You were the one who took the camcorder and took it forward, and ahead of your time.
I love that, Goodie. Thank you. That's so important to me. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think, like, I hope this year, I hope with what's ahead of them now, they have those characters, because it's going to be more important than ever, because there's no fans, because they're going to have to create their own environment, their own atmosphere around the hotel. Like, it was easy. I'm not going to say it's easy, but definitely in 2013 and 17, you walk out of a hotel and you have English supporters shouting at you as an Irishman. Jesus, you don't know what's going on. Like, they're trying to fire a bottle at you the week before and Twickenham. So it's That's what's so special about the whole thing. But I'm intrigued to see what kind of crack they can generate and how much fun the boys can have now on this tour together, because it's highly, highly important. And you speak about those speeches as well. That Jim Telfer speech makes the hair stand up in the back of my neck still. I wish I was sitting. You nearly wish as a player you're sitting in that room ready to play a game.
I always remember, Sean, we were stood up at Kingston Park and there were 5 of us. There was Alan Tate, Tim Stimson, Tony Underwood, Doddy and myself. We were stood talking. And Doddy said, for God's sake, boys, you wouldn't want to get picked for the Lions. And we'd been picked in the initial 62. So what do you mean you wouldn't want to get picked for the Lions? It's the greatest team in the world, without a doubt. It's unthinkable, really, in many sense. He says, Telfer's terrible, Telfer. And of course, I never worked with Jim, because he worked with the forwards. God, he beasted them. But he wouldn't, and it was brilliant for the English boys. And actually, do you know that, I don't play all about the English boys, but the Welsh whine and moan at times, and the Scots whine and moan at times about the English boys, and the English boys think, with this, that and the other. And Telford just said, you know what, I don't care what you've done at Arms Park and at Murrayfield and at Twickenham and at Lansdowne. You're here now, and it's my rules, and you abide by the rules. And I watched, and I just used to sit watching. And the time away from the sports field, you'll know this, boys, from going on tour, you can only train so much. Sometimes you've got to get away from it all, because you miss your family as well. It's a massive, massive drain about leaving the... My children were 7 and 5 and 6 months old, and my little girl was changing in front of my eyes whilst I was away on tour, and it was challenging, was that, especially when things weren't going well. But I used to spend a lot of time with Jim, sat with Jim over a coffee, talk about life and experience, and I really loved it. Loved and enjoyed him. But I get why the forwards didn't particularly enjoy him, because he's a tough taskmaster. Very tough man. Yeah.
But John, I was speaking to Jim not so long ago, and he still records. I said to him, did you see the match at the weekend? And he's like, which one? I've recorded 12 of them. I've got to go through them all. This is now. This is still now. He records everything from the Premiership to the Pro 14 to the Top 14, and he literally goes through everything forensically still.
He's an amazing man. He's a tough man. He's a tough man.
Yeah,
and do you know something? And you have 2 boys, the 3 of us with you, Lee. I've always said life's about a couple of things, really. A lot of it's about respect. And actually, to have respect, you've got to show respect. And the other one's about credibility as well. And it's about doing things consistently. And actually, you're going to make mistakes. Things are going to go wrong sometimes. But it's about those qualities, and Jim recognises those qualities with people. Respect and credibility, and I love him to bits, I do, honestly. Very different man to Geach, but they work so well together. Can I ask you 2 boys a very honest personal question? I've had lots and lots of rugby coaches, but I haven't had many good man managers. And actually, man management, especially when you're playing for the Lions, is so paramount, because all these boys can play rugby. Who are your best man managers, boys, as rugby coaches? So they've got to know the skills, but who are your best? Who are the ones who did it for you?
Shaunagh, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'd have to say man manager, probably Leo Cullen, actually.
Yeah.
Would you believe? He's definitely been one of them. And I'm going to say Michael Cheika was actually a good man manager in his early days. But I think he started losing his marbles a little bit more as he got into a few years of coaching. But in terms of, in the early days with Czechs, it was give us dogs abuse for days in, days out. But then you get into the office and he has like a few good points for you, and this is where you're going and this direction you're going. So he was quite knowledgeable in his approach, but it was hard on the field, okay off it type thing. But Leo had it all in terms of the way he managed you. He's a very softly spoken person, Leo. He doesn't raise his voice too often. And then Joe Smith obviously was incredibly detailed, good man manager, but at the end I wasn't a fan of his man management skills.
Like he dropped you. You didn't get
yeah. One side was no good. One side was no good in the setup with a dodgy hip.
Really?
There was no conversations ever had again. And I was like, all right, so this is the way it's going to be. Good luck.
Shaunagh, I love that you just mentioned your 3 Leinster coaches. You could pick one, just picked all of them, eh?
I did, because they've probably had the most influence on me.
What about yourself, Goodie? Did you play? Were you at Saracens when Eddie was there? I like Eddie.
Yeah. I was there when Eddie was there at the start. He was only there for 8 months.
How did you find him?
Yeah. Oh, look, he gave him a first chance there.
Yeah,
so
I like him.
It was a tough environment at Saracens then. We weren't particularly successful, and Eddie came in to try and just completely blitz the place and change it, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But the guy who came in after him, Brendan Venter, he was extraordinary. Yeah, surprised he didn't get stitches from him. Yeah. He was all elbows and knees, but he actually played against you at the Lions. Yeah. In that game. Yeah. But he was just brilliant as a man manager. He could make everyone in the organisation feel valued. He made everyone, even if you weren't someone who started every week, you coming off the bench, he made you feel important. You know, he'd say, look, you're going to get 20 minutes, and they felt lifted. He got more out of players, you know, made them play their best, the not so good players. And he was just all about treating you as a human. It was all about the human side. You know, treat you well, treat your family well, and in return, you'll work hard.
You'd never let him down. You'd never let him down.
No, and you wouldn't. And players never did. And if it meant proving a point in the training field, he'd go out there and do it in his sandals and run into contact and carry hard to prove a point about quick ball or gain line or whatever. But he'd do it, and then the players would obviously follow. But he was extraordinary as a man manager. I've never seen anything like it. Just galvanising a whole group and changing a whole organisation.
Do you know, Lee, just coming back to you, do you know what I love about this year's tour, the Lions?
What's that?
The Scots. There's some Scots in. You know, because we look. No, and I mean that. You know, we were on about referendum. Yeah. I always used to joke about the referendum when they were about going independence. Oh God, I hope they don't. What would the Lions do if they can't pick all the Scots boys? There weren't many. You know, but there are some good boys there. There are some good boys now. You know, the Scots will bring plenty to the table, and did during the Six Nations. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point, isn't it, John? You know, the fact that you've reeled off some big name coaches there, Geach and Creamy or Jim. The fact that Gregor Townsend has been underneath these guys and learned from them, hopefully from a Scottish point of view, a biased point of view, that starts to filter. You know, even if it's from Ian and Jim, it filters to Gregor, and then it filters hopefully through to make it stronger going forward. But you've all touched upon a really good point about how different this tour is going to be. And how on earth do you try and recreate the life experiences that you've all had, but the importance of getting that atmosphere right, because you are going to go into the current world champions' backyard and you've got to take them on. But this is a long old time to be away from family. You're in your bubbles. You might end up sick of the sight of each other. You're not allowed out your hotels. How would you approach that, John, from everything that you've learned over the years?
South Africa's different to the other two, I promise you. And I only played in South Africa, but I visited all three as a supporter. South Africa's different. It's a different game altogether. They put the Springboks a group of players to one side and call them the Springboks, and then they send the rest of South Africa out to kick the living daylights out of it. It's so brutal. It is so brutal. I mean, I think it was the same test in South Africa in 2009 when the two centres got taken off. When Ronan Nagara, and actually, do you know, I defend Ronan Nagara with that. And Edwards talks about kicking the ball out on the full. No, you've got to try and win the game. Yeah, it's poor timing. But actually, you kick the ball up, he knocks on, and you get a penalty yourself. And it was still there to compete for. But it's brutal. It's brutal, and it'll be a bubble. It'll be a bubble for the Lions, and that the importance will be that the harmony within the squad. That actually, you're in a bubble. There's all the British and Irish Lions supporters and the British Isles back here supporting everyone. We're a long way away. We're a 13-hour flight away, but it's against South Africa, and it'll be challenging. But they've not played as a team either, Lee, since the World Cup, which that'll take them some time to adapt a little bit as well.
I think you hit the nail on the head, though, is usually you can go out in groups and get to know people, go to a coffee shop, go to leisure park, whatever you want to do, anything, go and play golf, crazy golf, and you do that in different groups, but go for some beers. The problem now is going to be everything's going to be inside the hotel, everything's in a bubble, and can you move away from your usual friends groups that you always hang out with and make a massive effort to get to know someone from Scotland or get to know someone from Ireland, because you have to put yourself out there to get that harmony as you spoke about. And Lions tours previously, I've obviously never been on one, but everyone talks about how well people got on the winning tours and how sometimes it was more difficult on the tours that didn't win. And if they can manage that, they'll have a great chance of winning, I feel.
There were some disastrous tours. Since 97 was happy. But we put our differences to one side. I mean, one of the big things, there were 18 Englishmen. Jono had his own room. You wouldn't want to really room with Jono anyway, would you? Really? And then you were 17 Celts, 17 English. And we'd always room with somebody different from a different country. And that's where you get to know somebody good. And you see them relax. But equally as well, that's got to be the sanctuary. You need to get yourself away from it from time to time and compose your thoughts and recognise why you're there as well. It's not just all party time. It's about playing rugby, but it's ultimately about winning. End of story.
John, to sort of almost finish off where we started, because you made that point that, it was your tour was sort of the sort of straddling the professional era, and it doesn't matter really, it doesn't matter if your jersey's got baggier or you have to tackle a little bit lower. The DNA of the Lions, that's something that hasn't changed, has it? Rugby might have changed, but the DNA of the Lions really is the same.
I never expect to get pickly. I was in the right place at the right time with the right type of people, picking what they felt were the right type of people to go to South Africa. So I was from rugby league. I'd started in uni, gone to rugby league, never to come back again. Yeah, and I probably rocked out at Clacky in the third team, as another or something like that, just on a Saturday afternoon, 40-year-old perhaps. But I got the opportunity to come back, and it was never, ever on the radar.
Yeah.
And something? I didn't realise how big it was until after. And we were lucky because we were successful, but it came and I was a part of it. And then the longer it goes down the track, the bigger it gets, and it's just an amazing experience. And it changed my life.
And it's been an absolute pleasure. You've made a rod for your own back because we've enjoyed it so much. You're definitely coming back during the Lions series if you would like to.
I'd love to, thank you. It's a real privilege to be invited. Goodie, fantastic to spend a bit. Sorry, Matt, if I just hogged the microphone a little bit too much.
That's why we invited you, John.
Don't be silly. The only bit I was disappointed with was we didn't get to talk about the gym camera. When you're in the gym talking about how that went. Because that was, growing up, you were a hero to me. Just walking around the gym, talking to beautiful women, asking them, how'd you get in such great shape? Just fantastic TV, that. And also, John, just before you go, just a quick shout out. I know you've been a massive supporter of Doddy and his foundation, everything he's been doing, and you, Lee, as well. And because there's 8 people from Melrose Rugby Club who are taking on a challenge from, I believe, the west to the east of Scotland, coast to coast, 175 miles. They are cycling, running, kayaking and swimming, I think, in one of the locks. And they're all doing it for the charity. So just wanted to wish them all the best. What an amazing thing to do.
They must be bonkers, Goodie. They must be bonkers. But they've not been allowed to fundraise, have they? There's not been any fundraising going on for a while. And for an amazing cause and an amazing man. I had lunch with him a couple of weeks ago, Doddy, and he's still Doddy. He's still got a cheap sense of humour.
He's a wonderful man, as are you, John. Thanks so much for your time. I loved that chat. Great to hear the memories from John, also his current thoughts as well, but he can talk. He is a wonderful man.
Yeah, wonderful man. I must say it was nice to make sure that Sean was nice and silent. We usually can't shut him up, so great to hear someone else hogging the microphone, but great insight.
He'd be a great man to have at a dinner party, wouldn't he?
He would be.
World class.
world class. Like, and I don't know if he drinks or not. Does he?
I don't know.
I get the impression he's sort of person who might be teetotal. He's just always like that.
Yeah. But like, if imagine him with a couple of beers in him. You'd have some laugh with him. You'd have some crack
genius.
with
I
him.
think you'd have a pretty good crack with him regardless.
You
So
would,
no,
for
it's
sure.
great, and we'll certainly get him back on during the Lions tour as well. Gents, thank you very much for your company tonight. We will see you next week, and thank you very much to you at home for watching and for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
You've been watching the House of Rugby Season 3 on Joe.